So it's about that time. Hello and welcome. My name is Chastity Weiner. I am the director for the OPAL Senior Center, and I am so excited about this presentation because, it hits deep today. I have with us joining everyone Heather Murphy. She is from the Abilities Network, and she's really going to talk to us about those emotional reasons why we hold on to stuff. But she's also going to give us, hopefully, some tips to maybe break some of those bonds and holds and help downsize our stuff. Our stuff is often our own story, it's our identity, and we have really our clutches onto them. So, with that, Heather, I would love to introduce you. I'm going to remind everyone to stay muted unless you obviously have a question, and I'm sure we'll have questions and answers. And I'm here if you need me. Thanks, Heather, for being here, and thanks everyone for being here.
Yes, thank you, Chastity. Thank you, everyone, for being here as well. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my screen is sharing. Let's see.
And it is. We see
Okay,
your
very good.
stuff. We see your stuff,
And
Heather.
and it's moving.
Not really.
Oh, see, sometimes this thing likes to, I'm just going to do it this way. Can you see it move now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so thank you all so much for being here. Again, my name is Heather Murphy. I am a senior move manager. And I work with a company called Abilities Network. Just tell you a little bit about us real quick, and then we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of the emotional side of downsizing, which is probably the biggest part of downsizing. So, Abilities Network itself started in 1964. We provide four different services to the community, helping people throughout the Baltimore area. We do have services for folks who have disabilities. We have two family and child related programs. And then what I do falls under our senior services division. So we were added 15 years ago this past January. So we're celebrating our 15th anniversary this year. And really, what we do is considered move management services. And many folks haven't heard of what a move manager is, but basically, we are professionals who help people who are downsizing and moving. Um, so we would have resources to help with everything from sorting and organizing to shipping things to getting things packed and moved, selling items, donation sites, everything in between. Um, so we offer lots of different services to our customers, and you can see some of them here. And there are lots of move managers out there. We're not the only ones. So I will encourage people, oftentimes when they're considering talking with a move manager, make sure you're interviewing more than one and see who you're comfortable with and see what specific services they do and don't do. Now, we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about stuff, right? So, the emotional side of downsizing really starts with the fact that downsizing often is in conjunction with moving. And moving, unfortunately, is one of the top five stressors in anyone's life, right? I love this little cartoon. My doctor asked me if I ever had a stress test, and I replied, yes, it's called life. But moving is really, really hard. It's really difficult to do. It is a huge stress because there is so much involved with moving, right? So, why is moving so hard? There's many reasons. You don't want to leave, even though sometimes maybe the house is no longer suiting your needs, right? So if you have laundry, let's say, in the basement, going up and down the stairs with laundry baskets may become really challenging and sometimes even dangerous, right? Sometimes you've lived in your home for a really long time and you're just emotionally attached to it. Um, Making decisions of the things that you want to bring with you to a new space, which is often much smaller, is really hard because that space is smaller and you can't bring everything with you. And that's a lot of decisions to make in a short amount of time. And it's not just the house and it's not just the stuff, it's the neighborhood, it's the connections, it's the friends and the community that you have built in the place that you've been living maybe for 30, 40, 50 years. I just met with a customer yesterday. They've been in their home for 51 years. It's going to be a challenge to make a move because everything changes at that point, right? And change is a really, really hard word, right? A lot of people are afraid of change. It's unknown. And then you start getting into the doubting yourself. Am I making a good decision? Am I not making a good decision? Am I making a good decision for me? And is that also a good decision for my family? And sometimes all of this change can really lead people to start isolating themselves as they're working through the process. And as you do that, and we saw this even more so during COVID, when you start isolating yourself in your home, then you start to really churn through the stuff. And you almost, sometimes we've seen people just like get almost like too attached and handcuffed to the stuff, and it makes it even harder to make that change. Then on top of it, we have guilt, right? So there's lots of emotions when it comes to making a move. It can be afraid of change, it can be fear, it can be frustration, it can be overwhelm. Guilt is a big one, guilt over the decision. Unfortunately, we've seen situations where families may even say, "Hey, that I don't think this is the best move for you," but you're saying, "I need this kind of move," and so there's some tension there. And we have to be careful that the family's pressure isn't because of whatever reasons are more selfish on their part, and that, we're taking into consideration all of the pros and cons about a move. Sometimes there's also guilt about moving on. We often have folks who are moving through this process, and part of the trigger of making a move was because the loss of their spouse. And sometimes that's a really hard thing to do is I've lost my spouse. Now I'm moving out of the house that we lived in together for 40 years, and that's really guilt-stricken. Um, and again, that guilt from the family coming in can exacerbate all of this. We're dealing with so many things. I said there were five stressors in anyone's life, the top five stressors. Moving is one of them, but loss and grief is another one. And often these two are really tied together. Loss of a career or a job, retirement is another big one. So those three often are kind of combined in the same time frame, and that's why later in life moving seems to be and can appear to be even more difficult than when we were younger, making upsize type moves, right? So there's so much more involved in a move when we are going into retirement living versus when we are upsizing. And that's what makes this really, really hard. And then we really start just attaching ourselves to the things, right? Because that's what's easiest. It's easiest to attach ourselves to the things and the memories from the things. So I want to tell you this little story. This is really funny. So you guys see this rickety old wooden ladder, right? And yes, it is a rickety old wooden ladder. So, this is actually my parents' rickety old wooden ladder. I've downsized and moved my parents twice since I started doing this 15 years ago. And on their most recent move, which was 8 weeks into COVID, they decided to move from Hartford County all the way down to Ocean Pines, right outside of Ocean City. So, of course, I jumped right in and I lended them a hand and we packed them up and we got our movers to move them down there, and we're unpacking and getting things all set up. And my stepfather had told my husband, "Hey, go out in the garage and grab that wooden ladder. We want to change out some electrical things. I don't want you on the aluminum one. Grab the wood one so that we don't have any problems." So we looked and looked and looked and couldn't find the ladder. So I called up the movers because I knew they were using the ladder in the truck to get like things stacked higher. And I said, "Hey, by chance, did you guys accidentally take the ladder back with you to Baltimore?" And they're like, "Oh my gosh, so sorry. Yes." Needless to say, I was able to pick up the ladder and I brought it back down to their house, and that's where this picture is taken. And I called my stepfather and I said, "Hey, I found the wooden ladder. It's fine." And he's like, "Oh my gosh, you found Fred." And we're like, "Fred?" He's like, "Yeah, Fred the ladder." And I said, "Fred has a name?" And he said, "Yeah, Fred is my grandfather's wooden ladder that was handed down from him to my dad to me, and I'm so thankful that we found it. I was so upset that I thought that it was gone." I had no idea that Fred was Fred. I thought it was a rickety old wooden ladder, right? And so you can see just in that small time frame how you can attach even a human characteristic to the things that we collect. Okay. And it wasn't just that the rickety old wooden ladder was gone, it was what that rickety old wooden ladder represented for my stepfather. Okay. And so, it becomes really difficult when we start making those emotional attachments. So first, then people will say, "Well, then what do I even do? If it's hard, I know it's hard." And we talked about all of the emotional stuff that makes it really hard. And so what do I do? Because I still have to move, or I still have to downsize, or I still have to get organized. So first and foremost is just start early. The earlier you start, the easier it is to accomplish what you want to do in the time frame that you have. It's super easy, especially with something like organizing, to kick the can down the road, right? Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "I'm going to clean out my attic today," right? And if you do, I'm hiring. No. But listen, I mean, it's not something that is like an enjoyable task. So it is something that you want to set aside time for and keep that time. So start early, do it while you're healthy and able. The farther we put it off, if our health starts to decline or our physical capabilities start to become limited, it becomes even harder. And then you have to really depend on other people to help you with the process, which then feels a little less independent. Okay. We always say pick the low hanging fruit first. So start with the least sentimental areas of the house. Okay, so least sentimental areas that we have found are typically your attics, your garages, sheds, places that you don't have daily interaction. Those are the places you've kind of put things away that are seasonal. Maybe you need them once a year or occasionally, or it's the storage area for everyone who ever in the family gave you something, right? And so that's a little bit easier to get started with. Then you can move on to a little more difficult areas as you start building that downsizing muscle. So for you, the more difficult areas might be the kitchen because that's where all of your family meals were made and lots of memories were created. But for other people, it might be the closets. Clothing tends to be hard, especially for us women. So kind of build that downsizing muscle as you go along. The more you start letting things go, the easier letting things go becomes. But here's my tip: 2 hours at the maximum at a time. If you do more than 2 hours of sorting or organizing, it becomes pretty overwhelming and it feels like you're just kind of churning instead of making really good decisions. So set a timer, work for 2 hours, and then call it a day and come back to it the next time. Okay. A few other tips are make sure that when you start in an area, you stay in that area. So, for instance, if I'm cleaning up my office, I'm not going to take things from my office wherever else they may need to go. So if I find like something that belongs to my husband, I'm not going to take it out to his area until I'm finished my 2 hours in the office. That'll keep me where I'm at. And also, if during that 2 hours you don't finish in your space, that's okay. You still need to take your break, and your next 2 hour sessions start right back where you left off before you move on to another room. Excuse me. The next thing we want to talk about, though, is also emotional resilience. As you are downsizing, as you are sorting through a lifetime's worth of things, a lifetime worth of memories, feelings are going to come up, right? And we want to make space for that. And we want to recognize those feelings, whatever they are. You may be nostalgic about your high school yearbook. You may have amazing, wonderful memories when you find your wedding album. Some people may not have great memories because of family dynamics, and that may bring up a whole host of other emotions. So, one of the things that we try to do is refocus on the things that are being gained and the positives for making a move rather than what we're losing or the negative effects of moving, right? So, if as we're going through things and, it starts to get hard, if we can just put back into that memory the mindset of why we're doing this. I'm making this move because I am not shoveling one more year's worth of snow and ice. I'm making this move because I don't want to have to run up and down the stairs for the laundry anymore. Those are going to help you refocus on staying positive and what you're keeping. I love that. The other thing that we really highly recommend is having some sort of support system. Now, for those of us who are married, it may be our spouse. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes the spouses are having a hard time individually, and it's hard to support each other when you're having a hard time. So it might be friends or family that can be there with you even during the sorting sessions, just to talk through the memories, the emotions, reminisce, all of those things. That can actually wind up being fun, especially with younger generation family members sharing the stories and the legacies and the history can actually become a bonding moment. It really can be. Um, if at any time the emotional part of downsizing becomes too much to handle, we do say it is a hard time in life, and sometimes a trusted professional is very helpful during a move. Just to help with that transition. It doesn't mean that we have to have a professional all the time, but sometimes just during that transition can be incredibly beneficial. So, what are the healthy sides of downsizing? We have talked a lot about what's challenging and what can be hard, but why would we do this if it's so hard, right? So, we actually like to use the word right sizing instead of downsizing because it's not down, it's not negative. Right sizing is just moving into a space that's right for you and right for you now. So, oftentimes in senior living communities or smaller condos, one level living, whatever that looks like for you, there is a lower physical burden of keeping up with the house, right? Again, not as much shoveling or no shoveling. Excuse me, let me take a sip here. Mm. The maintenance on the house is not as much. And if you're living in senior living, they take care of that for you, right? Mowing the yard, shoveling the snow, keeping up with cleaning. What happens if something happens to the roof? All of those things either are greatly reduced or totally negated when you live in senior living or downsize into a smaller home. Safer environment. Again, I keep going to senior living because a lot of our folks are moving into retirement communities or other senior living communities, And most of them, if not all of them, are either gated or they're like a locked community that you have to have a key fob for or be buzzed in. So the actual living space is much safer than someone potentially living in a home in the community all by themselves. And who knows if they're being checked on regularly. Once you get through the downsizing part of the process or the right sizing part of the process, there really are fewer decisions to make once you've moved in because it's already done, it's already there, and now you have the time to do things that you enjoy rather than worrying about the space that you're living in. So all the time that you spent keeping up with the house and shoveling, and I hate to keep going back to those things, but all those things take time and energy that you can now spend on things that you love. Things like joining a club or doing trips or going on vacations or, you know, getting active in volunteerism, whatever it is that that kind of feeds your soul, there's going to be so much more time for that. So, those are some of the healthy sides of making a decision to move. So, I get asked the question all the time, how do I know if I should keep something or not? Like, if I'm going through my drawer and I'm trying to decide if I need it or not, here are some of the questions that you can ask yourself. I don't know if any of you have heard of Marie Kondo, but she's a big downsizing or organizing guru. And her quote is, "Does it spark joy?" Now, listen, I'm very realistic when it comes to certain things. And yes, bringing joy is very important. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure my toothbrush brings me joy, but I still need it. So let's keep it a little bit reasonable. But yes, asking, does it bring me joy? Especially if it's not like a necessity type of a thing, can be a really great question to ask. Here's another one that I love. What is the worst thing that can happen if I let it go? 99% of the time, if we let go of something and we find out in 2 years that it's absolutely something that we needed, we can get it again. Um, would you even buy it again? Would you find something else to fill that gap? Okay. Is it going to serve me in my new space? If I do keep it, am I even going to remember that I still have it? How many of you have boxes shoved in the back of a closet or in the basement that you haven't opened in, fill in your number of years, 5, 10, 15, 20 years? If that box were to disappear, would you even miss it? Did I purchase this thing as an investment or for joy? I really like this one. A lot of folks that we work with, the big thing to do was when they got married was to buy a dining room set and get the china and entertain and do it that way. Things have changed since then, but it's very hard when someone has to say, you know, that dining room table is probably not worth the $5,000 that you paid for it 40 years ago. That's a hard nut to swallow. So my question is, did you buy that table as an investment, expecting that you were going to get more out of it in the long run? Or did you buy it for the joy that it brought to you and your family sharing meals, 40 years worth of meals around that table? Has it paid its price to you? And I'm going to combine it with another question. Could this item then be given to someone else to start their memories around as well? So, one of the things that we really encourage is to think about, if I'm going to let it go, where does it feel good to let it go to? Okay. So, if I need to let that dining room table go because it's not going to fit in my new space, I don't just want to take it to Goodwill. Totally understand. But what if it's going to somewhere where maybe a family had a flood or a fire and they no longer have their dining room table? Wouldn't it feel good to pass yours along to them so that they can start again? And oftentimes that's the emotional part of it that makes it feel better and feel so much easier to pass it along. We call it rehoming, not not getting rid of. All right, so there is Chastity put a note in the chat. We'll go over the chat at the end as well. Okay. So I do want to talk about some oh, our 5 steps to downsizing. This is how we kind of approach helping people with downsizing or right sizing. So the first step is you. These are your things. This is going to be your move. This is your new home. This is your space. You get to choose the things that move along with you. You get to choose the things that are most important to you. And we will make space for those and help you to create a space plan and figure out if all of those priorities are going to fit, but you get first dibs. Secondly, is family and friends. Once we know what you are keeping, you're the most important, then we can offer it to the people that mean the most to you. Because again, it feels okay to give things along oftentimes. So we offer up to family and friends first, or second, really. From there, we like to approach it as sell what we can sell, donate what we can't sell, and only dispose of the things that we couldn't do something else with. Okay. So when we're talking about selling, there are lots of different ways of selling items, and it really depends on what it is, how much you have, and the timeline you have to make a move or sell your things. And so we can come in and take a look and make some recommendations for you, but we have resources for people who are auction companies that can come in and auction things. We have resources to connect people with as far as like estate sales go. We also have people who just come in and pick and buy items from our customers, which sometimes is the best option. So it just depends on the situation. Then, in addition to that, we have wonderful relationships with some great charities that we can utilize to come out and pick up furniture or donations um, for charity for donation. And basically, the main charity we use does donate back out to those folks who are in the community of need. So maybe they've had a flood or a fire, or they're coming out of homelessness, something like that. They collect furniture donations and then distribute it back out to those folks who are in our community who are at need. And then finally, if things do need to be disposed, we can make those arrangements as well. So move managers offer the coordination of all of those services as well as a lot of hands-on help with going through the downsizing process. I want to make sure that you know the questions to ask when you're talking to move managers. Make sure they're insured and bonded, and make sure that they are using employees and not subcontractors. Those are two of the most important questions. Um, for those of you who don't know, if a company uses a subcontractor and they are hurt on your property, or if something were to be damaged or broken, your homeowner's insurance has to cover that injury or that damage. Whereas if you are working with a company who use employees, our workman's comp and our insurances cover any of the damages or liabilities that you might have. And there's some other great questions there. Now, a lot of people have not heard of a move coordinator before, but they have heard of a wedding coordinator. So think of us as the wedding coordinators of moving. We have that black book of all of the contacts of folks that are in the industry that we can bring in as resources and also make sure that we navigate that day in a way that is as stress-free as possible for the folks who are moving. All right, folks. So that is kind of the end of the official presentation. So I did want to open it up for any questions. If you're comfortable, come off camera or come on camera, come off mute. You can certainly ask your questions or pop them in the chat, whichever one is easiest for you. And Chastity, I saw you came off camera, so hi.
While we're thinking, may I have a question? I have a
Yes.
question. This is going to be triggering. I have to warn
Okay.
everybody. So, my mom, we are in the thick of she's granting me and gifting me an entire garage full of stuff. I
Hmm.
don't want said stuff. It's not because I'm not sentimental, or it's just her generation. You just save to the next, but these are things that aren't interesting. In fact, there's a great book, and I had to pull it up. And excuse the expletive. It's Nobody Wants Your Crap, but it's not crap. The
I've
art
seen that
of
book. I love that book.
the art of decluttering before you die. And I really just want to, like, again, I want to be tender about this, because just as I'm trying to tell my mom so gently and tenderly, Mom, this is your story, not part of mine. Can you speak to that? Because I don't want to crush my mom, you know?
Right, right. And that is a really hard situation to navigate on both sides, right? So mom truly wants to pass her things along to someone she loves and cares about, so it's easier for her to let go. And on your side, I may not want, need, or care for whatever it is, the thing. That doesn't mean that I don't love you. I don't love the thing. Um, and it's really hard to navigate that. So being cognizant of wanting to be tender and gentle about it, I think is the first step for sure. Um, so there's a couple of things. Sometimes people will do a little bit of negotiation, right? So yes, I can take this and this, but I can't take the whole garage of things. Um, and one of the things that I would say is, particularly if she's gifting now, that's part of her process and processing the change and even probably pre-processing some grief. So if you do accept some of those gifts, make sure that they are visible when she visits you. Okay, so my grandmother did something very similar when she was downsizing. She gifted all of us grandkids her candy dishes at Easter time, and she filled them with some things, but we got a candy dish. So it was super important to me then moving forward when I hosted family dinners that that candy dish was out and displayed so that she could enjoy seeing me have it, right? So I think there's a little bit of negotiation there where we can say, yes, I can take one, two, three, whatever number feels comfortable and right for you, even if it's not something that you truly love, but take something to make the process easier of letting the rest of it go. What I would hate to see, and sometimes people think it's the right thing to do, yes, mom, I'll take it all, and then they trash it. And then that becomes a real conundrum, right? It becomes a real sticky wicket for the relationship. And I think what's most important in this situation is maintaining and salvaging the relationship more than the things. Um, and then the other thing I would say is maybe I can't take everything, but mom, would it be okay if we asked other family members if they would like some of this stuff? And if not, or if so, whatever is left, let's find a great charity that this would work for. So again, feeding into that emotional need, not just to, because what a lot of people assume is I have this garage full of stuff and you're just going to send it to the dump. And if we work through the process of I'm going to handpick these four things, sister, brother, cousins, nieces, nephews are going to come and grab a few things as well. But then what we can donate, we're going to send off to somewhere where it's going to be used and used in a way that is going to honor you. Then it's a lot easier to let it go. Does that make sense?
It does. What I heard you say is those hard conversations are hard, but they're really important to salvage a relationship. And it's really important to know that our stuff is really not our identity either. It's not totally one-to-one ratio tied. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you
And
for
when we're
that.
talking, you're welcome. When we're talking about stuff, I will often remind people just because I'm just picking something, the stapler reminds me of my dad, doesn't mean that my dad's memory lives in the stapler, right? My dad's memory is in my head and my heart and my memory. And yes, this may bring that memory back. So I might take a picture of the thing and keep a picture to refer to. It's actually proven in studies that a picture of the thing is just as potent of a memory as the thing. So often, I'll tell families to go through the house and take pictures and make a little album of the things that are super important that maybe are not being passed down right now. And then that way they have that to kind of reference back to and bring those memories and have that positive sentimental feeling. So that's another thing too. Any other questions? Man, I've done such a good job. There's no questions out there, huh?
I think you've given us a lot to chew on. That's what I think I
It's
need
true.
some space to kind of step away and discern and hear again. So, speaking of
Hmm.
which, to hear again, I had some really good side conversations while you were presenting and wanting to know, are we, how will this be shared? So, if you look at the chat right now, we are recording this, so it will be on the OPAL link within the Department of Aging, Baltimore County Department of Aging YouTube. Yes, we have one, a channel, so it's in there. Just check back in a few days and we'll be sure to get that up there for you.
Fantastic. And if anybody, I have some like cheat sheets for like that 5 steps of downsizing. If anybody needs that, Chastity can get in touch with me. You can certainly reach out. I'm happy to share any of that information. Or if you have specific resources you're looking at, another example is we were helping someone who moved who was an avid fox hunter. And you're not going to send like boots and riding crops and big oil paintings like to the local Goodwill, but we found out there's a fox hunting museum in Northern Virginia. So there's lots of ways to make this process a little easier with just a little bit of research. So if you're looking for something specific, don't drive yourself crazy. Reach out. We may have it in our back pocket. If not, we can figure it out.
Okay, Heather, there's two quick things. Why don't we go ahead, if you wouldn't mind emailing me those resources and
Yeah,
everyone who is here, I'll just go ahead and forward them to
sure.
you. That way, if that way we don't have to go back and forth and everyone has the resources who needs them.
Yeah,
Ellie is asking a question in the chat. Do you have
yeah,
any other suggestions for, quote, sticking with it? And I feel that, Ellie, when you go through items.
yeah. So there's a couple. So first and foremost, I say put it on your calendar, make it an appointment, and have someone who is going to keep you accountable. So it might be a sorting buddy. Maybe you team up with a friend and one week you're sorting at your house and the next week you're sorting at theirs and it's an appointment on your calendar. It's kind of like a workout buddy, right? Who works out unless they really have a workout buddy, right? So have a partner, have somebody who's going to keep you accountable. It also helps with the emotional processing, number one. Number two, if you can't do 2 hours at a time, if that feels overwhelming right now, start with 5 minutes. Pick a drawer, pick a space, and the more that you do it, the easier it becomes. Number three, take breaks. You have to step away from this, as Chastity was saying, to process, right? Even just to take a day or two in between sorting sessions. If you're not on a timeline, don't stress yourself over this and make yourself sick. Number four, reward yourself. What is your reward, right? Ladies, do you like getting a manicure? Guys, do you like going out golfing with your friends? Maybe the golfing with the friends is the reward for having done your sorting for 2 weeks in a row. So give yourself those mini rewards as you're going through. You'll also find the rewards in the sorting because you're going to find treasures that are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I found this. And then you can share it with your families as well.
I have a question, if I may.
Yeah,
Okay, I kind of wanted to listen in on this one for three reasons. One, I kind of want to declutter my own house, even though I'm not downsizing or going anywhere.
kudos to you.
Two, two, I wanted to listen in because my 90-year-old mother will be coming to that point at some time.
Yeah.
And I have a brother who hoards. So I thought maybe it would help him as well. So did I follow you correctly that your moving management section, I could call you and say, I've got this stuff from the garage, I've got these clothes, and you would help me distribute it to get rid of it, but it would also like help others?
Yes.
Perfect. That's good to know.
Yes.
Maybe that'll help nudge my brother.
Maybe.
All right. Great info. Great info. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see Ellie had another question. Any suggestions for places to donate older clothing? Um, so a couple of thoughts come to mind. General all-purpose, everyday wear. We like to use a place called Savers, which is in Towson. It's on the corner of Joppa and Paring Parkway. All of their proceeds benefit other nonprofits. So right now they are supporting the Lupus Foundation, but in the past they've supported Vietnam vets and the Boys and Girls Club with their revenue, with their proceeds. And they're just kind of an easy drop-off location as well. So it's an easy in and out, especially for us because we usually have loads and loads of stuff, but also for folks who may have trouble getting stuff in and out of cars, they have people that come out and help you like unload your car, and it's just a nice drop-off place. For things that are nicer, like if you're looking at business attire, particularly for women, there's Dress for Success, which is wonderful. They'll take business attire, even if it's a little bit older. Excuse me. And then there's Oh, I'd have to look it up. I think it's called St. John's Ministries for men's clothing as well.
Heather, I'd like to pull, since we brought it up in the previous conversation, I want to
Yeah.
pull this a little bit. Let's talk about that sensitive topic of hoarders. I bet you we ourselves might know of someone. Unfortunately, hoarding is taboo, and yet it is an emotional cry, if you will. So, can you help me and others kind of understand for those? Could these techniques really help maybe the hoarders or borderline hoarders who we know? And again, I use that intentionally and respectfully because this is an emotional process, not only for them, but also for their family members as well. So, talk to us about some of the techniques surrounding that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I will say is when we are working with hoarders, as in comparison to clients who may not have those tendencies, it is a different scenario, right? The emotional ties tend to be a lot more difficult, a lot harder to let go. And there's almost always trauma of some sort that's associated with it. So the techniques can work, but what I will say is what a lot of the studies will tell us is that without professional intervention at the same time as the actual organizing happening, maybe not in that moment, but in conjunction with one another, you're not going to have a success rate. So we have much higher success rates when folks work with organizing and the mental health piece of it in conjunction together. Just because the hoarding itself is a behavior that is manifested from other deeper rooted things, trauma, very difficult pasts, things like that. So we need to work on that emotional piece of it at the same time as the stuff, or else it doesn't work. I have seen situations where families have gone in if someone who has a hoarding tendency has maybe been hospitalized and the family goes in and just cleans out the house. It is probably the worst thing you can do because it is so re-traumatizing that that person clinically has been proven to re-hoard the area, not only re-hoard it, but hoard it twice as fast and twice as voluminous. So twice as much stuff, twice as fast. Um, so those are definitely very delicate situations to deal with. We have had some success in the past in working with people who are currently living in affordable senior living situations who are at risk of eviction because of a clutter issue. We have had success with our process in maintaining their housing and getting them um, reorganized, cleaned up, if you will. I know that's not a great term, but get their apartment to the point where they're passing inspections again so that we don't have them evicted. So we've actually had 25 or 30 cases we've worked on over the last 14 years of that, and we have 100% success rate.
That's really good to hear. And just to summarize, it really is a two-prong approach because the hoarding tendency is really a symptom to a greater cause. So if we just treat the symptom, we leave the greater cause completely exposed, and that was helpful. I think we do
Yeah.
have another comment in the chat. How
Yeah.
to ease the down the road regret of giving something away. I know that's part of the one of the reasons why we don't give it away, right? Missing the
Yeah.
memory attached to the thing, ruminating on that loss when it pops up. And I know you mentioned already taking a photo, keeping a
Hmm.
photo book, perhaps journaling even is a great way
Hmm.
to hold someone's legacy and memory.
Yep. The other thing I will say is put yourself in that loved one's position. So I'm just going to, again, use my stapler as an example. If my stapler brings me a memory of my father, do you really think my father would be mad at me for getting rid of the stapler? Is it the thing that is holding that memory? And would he understand if, and again, the stapler may not be the best example. Maybe it's a desk. Maybe it's just something that cannot move with me. Do you think that they would be incredibly insulted or angry or upset knowing that you are struggling with this decision? What do you think they'd say? They'd probably say, "Oh, daggone it, just get rid of it. It's fine. It's not a big deal," right? 90% of the time. I'm not saying that there aren't situations where that might be different, but oftentimes I think we put more guilt on ourselves than the person would put on us if we were to make that decision. Um, and again, the memory is associated with the thing. I would challenge you to use different verbiage there because attached, it's not attached to the thing. The memory is attached to your mind. It's not attached to the thing. It's associated with the thing, but it's not attached. So, I like the picture idea. I like the journaling idea. And I also like reminding ourselves that maybe we're being a little harder on ourselves than that person would have been.
Thank you for that. Any final questions here? Speak now or forever hold your peace. There you go. There's another one. Are you seeing that?
I am. Where do yard sales and church bazaar tables fit into the moving things along? I think they can be a great resource, um, especially if you feel good about doing the church bazaar because you're supporting the church and that's helping you to move things along. And if it's something that has been proven in the past that works, that people come to and they're buying stuff and getting it out, great. I am all for kind of any means necessary when it comes to certain things. If it feels good to you, do it. Absolutely. Um, I will say yard sales, though, often are a lot of work for very little return. And if you're going to do something like yard sales or even online sales, please make sure you have someone else with you for a safety check-in. When you start inviting strangers to your house to look at buying things, there can be some safety concerns there. So just be aware of that. Um, and are you in a position that you're physically capable of schlepping all of your stuff out onto the yard and being out there all day and selling the things? It might be really helpful to have someone help along with that, but it can be certainly a good option. I know the last time we did a yard sale, we were taking a family trip to Disney and we took all of our stuff and put it on a yard sale so the kids could earn their money for Disney. So it was a good experience for them. But again, you're not probably going to make thousands of dollars from a yard sale. So you have to kind of offset, is the time worth what you're going to make for it? I'm trying to downsize to move, but have a family member who is a hoarder and has things stored in the basement. How do I get them to move their things out, Kathleen? It's a really sticky situation, isn't it? Um, so what we have done in the past with families who still have things in their parents' homes, let's just use parent as the example. It could be loved one, aunt, uncle, whoever. Um, we give a deadline, and we make sure that it is communicated that that deadline is hard and fast. Like I have to, and generally it is in conjunction with a move that is planned. So I have my move scheduled on such and such a date. The movers are coming on such and such a date. I need you to have your things wherever they're going to be a week before that. Whatever that deadline is, make it a deadline. And also, I would say communicate the unfortunate of what may happen if they aren't able to get their things by that deadline. I this is the time by which I need your things out, and if you aren't able to come get them, unfortunately, I'm going to have to donate them. And usually that gives the impetus. Um, if they're a hoarder, I'm making an assumption that it's probably not just a few things in the basement, but we have had situations where it was just a few things and the family shipped it off to the other family member using UPS or FedEx, and it was there waiting for them so they could deal with it when they got home from work. But that might be one way to do it. Um, maybe also have them come over for some of your downsizing work to see how hard you're working on getting things downsized and maybe talk about what is the plan for their things. Um, I don't really encourage putting things in storage for people who have a hoarding tendency because it's just not a great option. It just gives them another place to add more stuff into. So maybe talk through what is a good plan for the things that you're storing for them. Um, I hope that was helpful, Kathleen. If there's other questions, let me know. And then Steve said setting some things out on the curbside with a free sign works too. That can work if that's allowed in your neighborhood.
If people want to reach out to you specifically or the Abilities
Yeah,
Network, can you put your information in the chat, please?
I am. There you
Thank you.
go. You're welcome.
And generally, since you guys are a service, there's a cost associated, I'm sure. Where can people find, could they Google Abilities Network or
So, typically what we do, and I'll go ahead and put our website on there because you will be able to get some information off of our website. But when folks are interested in these kinds of services, I would say to reach out to me and we'll chat. We'll figure out what services you're looking for. Usually, I'm going to schedule an in-home consultation that is no charge. So I can get a lay of the land, see what services are needed, see what that game plan looks like, and then we'll put together an estimate for them. Every situation is unique and different and requires different people, amounts of time, all of the things. And because we're a nonprofit, sometimes we have grant funding in certain situations that may allow us to offset some of the costs of services. But we don't always have that grant. It's kind of, when we use it, it's gone. When we have it, we have it. So it's always best to call me first. Let's chat about what you need, and then we can kind of go from there for pricing.
Well, thank you again, Heather. And again, thank you for joining us, everyone. I hope this at least wets your whistle and maybe gives you the incentive or the ambition to maybe take that one drawer, the junk drawer. We all have one, right? Maybe that is your 10 minutes today, or set a
Yeah,
goal there and start. What a journey of 1,000 steps starts with one,
with
right?
one. Yep.
So, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you and have a great day.
All right,
Thank you
thank
all.
you. Thank
Bye.
you.